Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about the Greenskin Legendary Lords. The Greenskins are one of the best races in the game currently, and so I want to talk about their individual Legendary Lords to find out who is the best out of all of them. Well, one that certainly isn't the best is Skarsnik. Poor old Skarsnik, he's been left behind. When he was introduced, his campaign benefits may have made a lot more sense, but nowadays in Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires in particular, they just don't. So let's go over that. What does Skarsnik get? Well, he gets a cost reduction in hero actions and 100% experience, though that doesn't really matter all that much because hero actions are not too important in Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. He can get Doom Divers in WoW armies, that's pretty decent, and he gets a unique building chain at Carrick 8 Peaks. But the downside, a major downside as far as I see it, is that he can only recruit orcs from Carrick 8 Peaks. And it's not like he just goes to Carrick 8 Peaks and he builds the regular chain. No, he has to build that unique structure that we're talking about. On top of that, he personally isn't the best Legendary Lord. Yes, he gets substantial bonuses in ambushes, melee attack, for instance, as well as better night sneaking, so he can get some substantial benefits to night goblins. And really though, he's the kind of guy who's really designed to take advantage of ambush battles. And there are a number of things in his skill tree that are going to suit that. For instance, 10 leadership during ambushes. Armor piercing damage +6 during ambushes on his army. But as I've stated, the vast majority of the battles are not going to be ambushes. The vast majority of the battles are going to be minor settlement and siege battles, where Skarsnik does struggle the most. Yes, I know you can recruit nasty stalkers, and they do have stock, and they can take advantage of that. And to cheese the siege battles, because you can move your units invisibly around the enemy, take the victory points, win the battles like that. Sure, that is a cheese that is available, but outside of that, Skarsnik is probably the worst Legendary Lord when it comes of the Greenskins, and certainly one of the worst actually in the game when it comes to pure combat potential, because he's more of a buffer. And he's supposed to, you know, fight unfavorable battles in ambush and win those. He does get some really nice army benefits, but he's just not the strongest in terms of pure combat potential. Have Skarsnik go up against Grimgor. Grimgor is going to beat his ass with relative ease. And not having orcs means that you're going to struggle in terms of having line holders. So you're going to rely on trolls, which do have substantial disadvantages because of their poor leadership. Though trolls are pretty good at armor piercing, so while you are fighting dwarves early on in the game, you're going to get that armor piercing that you need. And you can recruit a ridiculous amount of goblins every single turn. Like, I'm recruiting another army here. I'm recruiting trolls right now, but then I'm gonna get a bunch of goblin archers, get some from global recruitment, no problem whatsoever. The only benefit that Skarsnik does get is a substantial upkeep and recruitment cost benefit to goblin units. So for instance here, I have 2 entire armies, well, pretty much close to 2 entire armies, and I'm recruiting a 3rd, and I'll be able to maintain that as long as I'm stacking these up with goblin units. Okay, that sounds great, and it does work in quite well within the game plan that a lot of factions, a lot of Legendary Lords do have in Immortal Empires, or the current meta, which is to get as many armies as possible, to expand as aggressively as possible across as much of the map as possible. And Skarsnik can do that. However, all of the Greenskin Legendary Lords, all of them without exception, have good economies. So this kind of benefit would be superb for, you know, a race like the Empire, for instance, which doesn't have that great economy, growth, public order. It's one of the benefits that Marcus Wolfhard has, for instance, because he can maintain, at least for his own personal army, a lot of archers and huntsmen for very cheap. Skarsnik gets this faction-wide, so it means he can recruit more armies. But again, it's not quite significant, I feel, when you're talking about the Greenskins. Why is that? Well, because every Greenskin settlement at level 1 gets one of the best income structures in the entire game. So And they can earn a ridiculous amount of money from looting and sacking settlements and from post-battle loot. That's one of the main substantial benefits of the Greenskins. They can't trade, so they earn more money through their income buildings and by looting and sacking settlements and post-battle loot in general. But what that means is that benefit that Skarsnik has is not quite as significant as you might believe it is. And every single legendary lord of the Greenskins, outside of Wurrzag perhaps, have plenty of ways of earning a substantial amount of income regardless. Like, look at Azhag, he gets a benefit to sacking. Look at Grom, he prints money. He literally prints money using scrap, and so on. And so that benefit, yeah, it is nice, but it doesn't make up for his shortcomings. If the game was more focused on field battles, if there were a lot more field battles and minor settlement and siege battles, I could understand that. And if you could really use the ambush benefit that he does have, that would work even better. But ambushes, outside of cheesing the AI to attack a settlement, to draw their army in instead of having to chase them down, ambushes do not really matter at the moment in Warhammer 3. Maybe Skarsnik could be in a better position if his default move stance would be an ambush stance, you know, like the Beastman. That would be a different discussion, but it's not. He has a regular move stance. His ambush stance requires 25% campaign movement range to do it. So if he was like the Skaven or the Beastman, who every time they fight a battle, an open field battle, they had a chance, a really good chance, to be clear on that, to trigger an ambush, then yeah, Skarsnik would be in a better position. But even then, he'd still be lackluster compared to the other legendary lords when it comes to siege battles. Because people talk about the nasty skulkers, but well, the other Greenskin legendary lords can get them. I personally don't even have the structure for them because I really don't care for them right now. I'd rather go with trolls and get the gold mine over here, get income, right? Get those income structures instead of worrying about nasty skulkers, because I'm not too concerned about the individual battles. I want to get my economy going as quickly as possible. So he's a mediocre at best legendary lord playing in a really good race. Can you play his campaign? Absolutely. Is he the absolute worst of all the Greenskin legendary lords? Yes, he is. And he really needs some changes to become what he was meant to be. It's kind of a crying shame, really, when you think about that, because Skarsnik is one of the most interesting Greenskins characters in the entirety of the lore. I mean, he is one of the main characters, actually, of the Greenskins in the lore, and yet he's incredibly weak in Warhammer 3. I mean, the fact that he's not really a good combatant himself, he won't stand up to the likes of Grimgor or others in a pure fight. On a one-on-one basis, his buffs don't really matter as much as one might believe. Like, compare his buffs to what Wurrzag gives his army. We can start talking about powerful legendary lords. But yeah, I mean, I just think Skarsnik is the only weak legendary lord that the Greenskins actually have currently in their entire roster. Which is saying a lot, because you already have a powerful race that has, in general, with the exception of this one guy, has in general really strong legendary lords, some of the best in the game on an individual level, and then add together with that with a great economy, great growth, huge amount of recruitment, the ability to declare, oh, let's declare a Wa, let's go, Carrot Egg Peaks, go for the Wa, go for the missile strength, right? Double the size of every single army, get a lot of troops for free. Yeah, Greenskins have a lot going for it. So if you want to play a Skarsnik campaign, it is certainly doable, but just bear in mind that you are playing the worst legendary lord of the Greenskins, and maybe nerfing yourself in that perspective may make a Greenskin campaign more interesting, because yeah, you can be so powerful that you steamroll the map and it's no longer fun. Now, number 4, we have Wurrzag, the Great Green Prophet. And although he's at number 4, make no mistake, this guy is a steamroller express in terms of his own combat potential. Whereas Skarsnik is not strong at all in battles on an individual level unless you get him stuck into an ambush battle. Wurrzag is a different affair altogether. Yeah, he can get the powerful mount, he can get incredibly powerful benefits to Savage Orcs, melee attack, charge bonus, more melee attack and charge bonus for Savage Orc Cavalry. magical attacks for his entire army, physical resistance to trolls, giants, arachnid spiders, and rogue idols, and yeah, some really powerful magical ability. This guy steamrolls the map even when played by the AI, and he also gets benefits to. He also gets a 25 charge bonus to Savage Orc units, and reduces the chance that enemies will succeed against him. On top of that, he personally gets a substantial upkeep benefit for Savage Orc units, recruitment cost for Savage Orc units, physical resistance for Savage Orc units. Yeah, he is a bit ridiculous when it comes to that. Now, Savage Orcs are pretty good. The one downside they do have, however, is that they're very bad against missile units. Never mind, says Wurrzag, I'll just give them a scrap upgrade that gives them 30% missile resistance, more than making up for any particular deficiencies when it comes to that. I mean, obviously the armor issue is still gonna remain if you are playing Savage Orcs, but Wurzag's got other things to cover that as well. He starts with a Rogue Idol, the big one. This guy, like, Rogue Idols are powerful Greenskin units. This guy is substantially better than the ones than the regular ones. So you start with a Regiment Renown that was one of the best in the game, flat out, and you do start in a pretty good position, being able to recruit Savage Orcs. Hey, you want to go to the war with the Top Knots, take all of their territory, or you want to take the capital of the Dwarves, you can do so. Like, yeah, Wurrzag generally ends up being the strongest Legendary Lord of the Greenskins when AI plays him, at least on Legendary. That's been my experience, and there's a reason behind it. His army, his individual army is pretty scary, even with relatively low tier units. Once you get to high tier units, it is downright unstoppable. He's also the only Greenskin Legendary Lord that has strong magical potential from the very start of their campaign, because he is a powerful caster from the very start, and he also gets a non-goblin shaman, so you get the Big Wa and the Little Wa magical skulls both together from the very start of your campaign. That gives him a lot of power. But why put him number 4 then? Well, he doesn't have the same kind of army benefits that some other Legendary Lords have, or the faction benefits that some other Legendary Lords have. I mean, he personally is unstoppable, but his other armies not quite as much. So that is a downside from my perspective. Beyond that, it's just really the starting position. The Badlands is not a great area. The Southlands even less so. Though you can go and conquer Cetra if you so desire. Conquer the Dwarves, conquer Cetra. You do have some benefits in the fact that you do have a lot of territory potential in terms of like a lot of territory types that you can take, which is certainly a substantial benefit compared to quite a lot of Legendary Lords that do exist in the game. But yeah, short version of this, Wurrzag is strong. He's just not quite as strong as some of the other ones. He just doesn't have the faction-wide benefits that some of the other Legendary Lords have. But yeah, he's pretty incredible. You play him in a campaign, you will do very, very well. And you have choice flexibility. You can go against Crag if you so desire. Oh yeah, it's unpleasant, but you'll be just fine when it comes to your income overall as any of the Greenskin Legendary Lords. Or you can conquer the entirety of the Dwarven lands and then head out into the south and just conquer all of that as well. Choices. Now at number 3 we have Azhag the Slaughterer. He starts over here in the Northern World Edge Mountains, and he's in a fairly safe starting position, only having to deal with a minor ogre faction. And after that, he does have choices. He can burn Kislev to the ground if he so desire, or he can likely take Fort Jakova, sell it to Katrin, make some kind of deals with Katrin so she'll get off his back, and you don't have to deal with Draika in return, which could beat you potentially. I mean, Draika has one of the strongest, if not the strongest, early game army in the entire game. But he does start with a gold mine, though. He starts with a gold mine potential, like Skarsnik. It's like, oh, Skarsnik is so good because he starts with a gold mine. So does Azhag. And he starts in a much better position, much safer position. And his only true enemy at the start of the campaign is going to be Karakadrin. Yeah, you're going to tear for those Slayers with relative ease. He starts with a pretty good army of Orc Biggins, Rocklobber, Trolls, a Shaman. So he does have a decent magical potential. It's not on the level of Wurrzag, that's for damn certain, but it's still pretty good magical potential that he starts with. And what really elevates, I feel, what I really feel elevates Azhag versus Wurrzag or Skarsnik is this. He gets 25% benefit from income from sacking settlement. Faction wide, not individual lord wide, faction wide. On top of all of the other benefits that greenskins do get when it comes to sacking and looting settlements, he gets even more than that on every single lord that he has in his army. Now, there are, of course, going to be some downsides, but he does get pretty good benefits when it comes to upkeep for all orcs and biguns. So an orc army will actually work very well for him. Melee defense for all orc units, speed, base missile damage for orc archers and savage orc archers, benefits to shamans. So you can really get that magical potential going in multiple armies, not just one single army as Wurrzag's situation is. Underway benefits, right? Or not, yeah, underway benefits, vanguard deployment for all orcs and biggun infantry and cavalry units, and yeah, a pretty good amount of combat potential. If there is any downside, it is this: you won't really be able to fully utilize his magical tree because you just don't have the points to build them up very well in melee as you would in magical tree. So his magical tree is not going to be as strong. But at the same time, you don't really care because, hey, you got that really sweet shaman benefit. Being able to recruit shamans at rank 4 with the skill tree, once you get them to 12, like what you do generally is you get these two unlocked, then you get the skill like the boys. In his case, you'd get the boys because he is going to be focused on orcs. You get the boys, and then you save up points until 12. And you then unlock this entire skill tree. This is something you can do with a lot of legendary lords. So you'd be able to get shamans very, very quickly in his campaign. Extremely quickly, actually. And in point of fact, I'm not even going to destroy that. I'm just going to keep it right now. And then just start recruiting some more archers the moment they do become available. So yeah, Azhag is in a good spot. He's got a really good expansion plan when it comes to it. He does need to take Kislev out to win a campaign, although he could also make a vassal or a military ally if he so desires. The greenskins allied with Kislev. Well, stranger things have happened in Warhammer lore. Stranger things have absolutely happened. On top of that, he does get the ability to get an armor piercing upgrade for the orc biguns and orc units in general. So the fact he's really buffing his orc units as opposed to goblin units or black orcs does give him some fairly substantial advantages in my book when it comes to his combat potential faction-wide. Sure, he's not necessarily going to be able to maintain as many armies as some other legendary lords, but each individual army that he's going to have is going to be pretty damn strong in my book. The one downside, of course, is you're going to really need to get the barracks to utilize those archer benefits, utilize those orc boys benefits. But yeah, Azhag is in a really good spot. He is generally a monster on the campaign map, being able to inflict significant damage on Kislev and Karakadrin. In fact, in the vast majority of campaigns, he's either not necessarily wiped out, because Karakadrin is a difficult settlement to take, but not necessarily wiped out, but he certainly limited Karakadrin. He's limited Ungrim to just Karakadrin itself in a lot of campaigns, and that happens fairly consistently. Just don't get involved in a war against Draika and you'll be in a pretty good spot, I'd say. Or avoid the war with Draika for much of the early game. Go for her in the mid game because she is stronger than you are. But that's just her pure army potential between Treekin and Gladeguard. That makes her so very, very dangerous. But yeah, Azhag number 3, you can get a ridiculous amount of money from sacking settlements with him, with all lords in his entire faction. Now in number 2, we have the second best Grimgor Ironhide. Poor Grimgor. This is the second list I've done where he comes out in the second place. I made the list about the easiest to play legendary lords and strongest legendary lords, and he came out second best on that. He's second best on this list of the Greenskin legendary lords as well, for good reasons, I would say. He doesn't have the same power in terms of an army or magic or biguns or orc units in general, though what he doesn't have necessarily in that pure combat potential or the upkeep benefit on goblins, he more than makes up for it for one thing: campaign movement range. 10% campaign movement range to all armies in the game, all armies that you control. On top of that, he also gains substantial benefits himself, from post-battle loot, armor for Black Orcs, leadership for Black Orcs, and he's just a hero killer, a legendary lord killer. Because with that, your next ability, he's just going to do substantial damage to anyone that stands in his way. He also gets the Immortals unique banner, so he can buff a unit of Black Orcs and basically make them unkillable, as long as their leadership holds. He also gets a benefit to Black Orc big bosses, which are pretty decent hero. Now, sure, you would want shamans, but 2 hero capacity with them is pretty nice, especially because you can recruit them from any province, any region from the very start. You don't need the structure for these fellows, and you can get it through a special skill tree at level 12. Beyond that, he does get benefits to Black Orc units, charge bonus, bonus versus large, leadership, benefits, causes fear and terror, hit points, and an incredible amount of combat potential. Grimgor is a wrecking ball of our legendary lord. His personal combat potential is unmatched among the Greenskins. If you fight him, he might kill you on his own. Let alone the fact that he also starts with Doom Divers, and he also starts with a unit of Black Orcs that are going to be far stronger than regular Black Orcs. And beyond that, beyond the campaign movement range, the Black Orc benefits, the artillery benefits that he starts with, the Black Orc Big Boss benefits that he also starts with, and you can get quite a lot of them from the very start. Beyond all of that, like, you can get 3 of them very quickly in a campaign. Beyond that, it's also his campaign position that really helps Grimgor a great deal. There's pretty much nothing in the Dark Alliance right now. And even when the Cast Dwarves get added in the game, and we do expect that to happen, it's not like the Cast Dwarves are going to have an easy time going after Grimgor. But for now, the only challenge he has, quote-unquote challenge, is Kolic Sun-Eater. Kolic is a strong legendary lord, but he's going to go up against the Green Tide, and he's going to fail. You get the WoW going, Kolic doesn't stand a chance against you. And that's what elevates Grimgor. Because while other lords may have the ability to maintain larger armies than he does, he has the ability to move around the campaign map far faster than they can, which is actually something that's important in mountainous terrain or the vast emptiness of the Darklands. So he really has a campaign start that's suited to him. He has campaign mechanics that are suited to the geography that he starts in. Yeah, his army won't necessarily be the best. He doesn't have the raw magical potential of either Azhag or especially Wurrzag, or the hordes of goblins that Skarsnik may have, but he is a lot scarier to face in any individual battle than the other legendary lords are. On top of that, the fact that he does get the ability to get free Black Orc big bosses means that he gets training on each army, right? So training is pretty nice to have because it's going to give you the experience per turn with each single unit in your army, and Grimgor has access to that much easier than anyone else. And being able to get high-ranking units faster than anyone else is certainly an advantage that Grimgor does have. Oh, also you can get some really nice benefits for his Black Orcs as well on top of that using scrap. So yeah, Grimgor is in a really good spot. He's a wrecking ball. He doesn't face any challenges. He can expand at his leisure. He has a strong economy like all the Greenskins have. Good growth, good public order, like 30 growth to all provinces, 5 control to all provinces, recruitment cost minus 10% to all armies, leadership and all armies. Yeah, this WoW meter alone is what elevates the Greenskins, not just the fact that they get they double the size of each army when they do declare WoW, but even leading up to that, they get substantial faction benefits. I mean, the negatives do hurt quite a lot when you are at the bottom feeder level, but once you get past that, you really start going as a Greenskin legendary lord. And Grimgor, with his higher campaign movement speed, certainly takes advantage of that. And he also gets an upkeep benefit to Black Orcs and Big Guns. So, hey, what's there not to like? And finally, at number 1 on this list of the Greenskin Legendary Lords, there is Grom the Paunch. See, all of the other Greenskin Legendary Lords, they have some things going for them, except Skarsnik, who is lagging behind. But Grom doesn't just have his faction benefits or his special skill tree, both of which are pretty decent in their own right, but he also has cooking, which is on top of everything the Greenskins has. So Greenskins, amazing growth, amazing control, good income, can trade, but can declare a war and really mess you up. The Greenskins are already one of the best races in the game. Individual lords with their faction benefits are already some of the best in the game, and Grom kicks that up to 11. But let's look at what he has to offer. He gets access to the Cauldron and has a global recruitment duration of -1 per turn for goblin units. Now the benefit of that is that if you do global recruitment, say for instance here I'm global recruiting, then means that I can recruit goblin archers in 1 turn through global recruitment, or goblin units through global recruitment in 1 turn as opposed to 2. So you can get a lot of armies going very, very quickly. Now, Greenskins generally don't have issues recruitment, but obviously your recruitment structures are generally going to be in your core territories while your armies are going to be across the world. Grom can take advantage of that global recruitment benefit for goblin units to get, you know, night goblin archers, for instance, in any of his armies very, very quickly. That is a substantial benefit to begin with. Then he also starts with the giant river troll hag. It's not a shaman, it's nowhere near on that, but it will give you a substantial benefit, which is casualty replenishment. Orcs do have good casualty replenishment, but none of the other legendary lords have easy access to a hero that gives them casualty replenishment. Grom starts with one. That is quite substantial, so it means you can go from battle to battle to battle, easily replenishing your army. Like for instance here, these goblin units which have taken substantial damage fighting Elfarian. Yes, I've killed Elfarian by turn 10. It's very stupid, and it is at that same time very, very possible. I mean, you bring up an army with a Wa, you bring then a second stack, yeah, he's not going to be able to stop you with that. But all the same, you are able to easily recover from battles, which means that your early game is going to be much faster than that. Having casualty replenishment from the very start of your campaign can speed up your campaign substantially. Then there's Grom's own personal skills. He isn't the best combatant. He rides a chariot, which does have its own issues in a lot of minor settlement and siege battles, but he is pretty decent. He's no Grimgor, that's for certain, but he is going to hold his own. But he does get significant leadership benefits to goblins, growth, and more casualty replenishment on top of the troll hag and the default that the Greenskins have. Benefits to chariots and pump wagons, though you don't strictly need that all that much. Some substantial benefits for himself for getting magic items, post-battle loot, and sacking settlements. What that really ends up being is that you can get a lot of banners. Like I played a campaign as Grom. I was rolling over in banners giving me post-battle loot, for instance, and income from sacking settlements. Like, there's a lot of ancillaries you're probably going to get if you're playing as Grom. And then, rattled effect, reducing combat ability, bonus versus large for goblin units, and melee attack +6 for goblin units in all battles, not just ambush battles. Eat your heart out, Skarsnik. -7 leadership for elven armies in a local region. Yeah, he's really good from that perspective. He would be behind Grimgor and maybe Azhag if not for the Cauldron, however. See, the Cauldron is what really elevates Grom from being a good lord to the very, very best one, because he does have some issues. He does start in Massive Oracle, and Bretonia is not good climate for him. Greenskins generally don't care about it, but it would be a downside if you were having to play him normally, as you do every other legendary lord. But you don't have to play him normally. You have the Cauldron. So the Cauldron, by default, you'll be able to get Ocean Clams and Green Spores very, very quickly for Grom and unlock a bunch of things over here. Recipes. You can get ingredients from the hag that's going to show up near one of your settlements, and you can just purchase ingredients, increase the capacity on the Cauldron, get some substantial benefits. But here's the crazy part. From the start, Grom is going to be able to literally earn money, increase his already substantial casualty replenishment, and get reputation for a while, and improve growth by 10 in all provinces very quickly. As long as you have scrap, you print money playing this guy. There's power in a campaign But I don't believe there's any other campaign where you literally can print money. I mean, maybe the dwarves if they salvage their items, but obviously that does cost off gold. Scrap is very easy to acquire. You just fight battles, you acquire scrap. Not a really big issue whatsoever in acquiring scrap in any particular campaign. You may have more limited capacity than other lords in terms of like being able to upgrade your units because you're using it for the cauldron. Though you don't need to just like keep pumping scrap in the cauldron for money. You can just get an effect and have that effect for 10 turns. So it's not actually a substantial amount of scrap that you are spending. His starting position is probably the worst of all the legendary orc lords, and yet he doesn't give a shit. He's actually one of the few legendary lords outside of elven ones and the ones that start in Ulthuan that can take Ulthuan territory. That in itself is a substantial benefit because Ulthuan is certainly a really good zone that can have a lot going for it, and Grom can conquer all of it pretty quickly. His only rivals are going to be Elfarian and Terrian, and by the time you show up there, and you can show up there very quickly, they will not be able to stop your tide. Like, I have 2 armies. These armies are going to get to 40 units each. There's no chance Tyrion has at stopping this particular green tide of death. Elfarian already fell trying to stop it. It wasn't good enough. Oh, and even further, his Green Troll Hag, you have an item that you get from very early in a campaign that gives you a summon ability for a rogue idol. It's not Wurrzag's Regiment of Renown. As a summon ability, it's going to decay very quickly, but that is substantial combat ability that Grom is going to get. Oh, and even further, he gets 10% physical resistance for Goblin, 10 leadership when fighting against elves, and 10 leadership when fighting against elves. Yeah, he is the Goblin King, and I'd say that in every single way that counts, he's better than Skarsnik. Yeah, he doesn't have the same kind of upkeep and recruitment cost benefit that Skarsnik has with his Goblin units, but you don't care about income when you're playing Grom the Paunch. Just to give you guys an idea, I played a campaign as Grom where I didn't rush Elfarian, and I was just fighting non-stop against everyone around me because, well, everyone does hate you. Bretonnia hates you, the Empire hates you, the Wood Elves hate you, so if you try and fight the Bretonian campaign, you're going to have a lot of declarations of war against you. But you didn't care. Like, you play a campaign, you conquer Athaloran, the Reichland, Carcassonne, and much of Bretonnia without giving a single fuck, more or less. That is, in essence, Grom's campaign. You just go around conquering the entire world and they have no answer for you. It gets even better late game when you start looking at some of the other benefits that he does have, like, oh, Phoenix Fire, for instance, I unlocked fire damage for Goblin and Night-Goblin. It's like this entire cooking tree is just basically, how do I buff goblins that already are pretty powerful for Grom to begin with? How do I buff them to biblical amounts? Dragon's Breath. Ammunition cause explosion damage. You notice how the Sisters of Avalon are one of the top tier range units in the entire game? The reason they're one of the top tier units is because they can do explosive damage, if I'm not mistaken, in that. Grom gets that on his tier 1 units, let alone his Night Goblin units, which are obviously going to be substantially better. You're already taking a powerful wrecking ball of a ranged army that all the Greenskins have in Goblin Archers. Sure, they're not the best range units, but they're pretty cheap and you can mass them in very large numbers. But you're taking that and making them some of the best ranged units, certainly early game, in the bloody game with the Cauldron. And that's just one effect. You want ammo, for instance, you can get that, and as well as more projectiles. You can get that anti-infantry effect, you can get missile strength. There is a lot that Grom has access to. Getting all the ingredients can take some time. You can purchase them from the hag that shows up at your settlements. Or you can go for a cooking recipe. That can be annoying, for instance, because it's like, oh, me loves a good pie. Figuring that out, I'd recommend having a guide on hand to check that out. It's like, what the hell does she want? But all the same, you get a lot when you are playing as Grom. You get a lot of power. Like, even without the Cauldron, he'd still be a good lord. With the Cauldron, he's on a different level than the vast majority of legendary lords in the entire game. And that's it. Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and I'll see you next time. Hope you all enjoyed this.